proposing that the City of Spokane Valley issue a proclamation stating that our city is a Second Amendment sanctuary city.
Welcome to the fire.
Today on Church and State, we'll be joined by Daryl Becker of Content Safe. Hello, Christian Patriots, and welcome to Church and State, where we strive to plug you into the pew and plug you into politics. I'm your host, Caleb Collier. With me, as always, Pastor Gabe Blomgren.
Yeah, if you have a business, a website, if you have a church, if you have been canceled, please listen, because right now we are in a battle in media. We're a battle in our churches. We're in a battle in every single forum to get our voice for Jesus Christ out there into the media, into the ethosphere, and it's being canceled. And today we're going to learn how to prevent that and how to sincerely protect the investment that is your Facebook page. Even if you are somebody who's, just actively involved on Facebook, please pay attention and listen today.
Yeah, I like that. This is the solution for cancel culture.
Yeah.
So real quick before we bring on our guest, I wanted to point everybody to our website, churchandstate.media. Please take advantage of all of our fine affiliates there. My Pillow, My Patriot Supply. We're talking about free speech, Gabe, so I really wanted to highlight the Tuttle twins on this one. Talk about a great series that is going to teach your kids all about the free market system, about capitalism, and the joys that are of those systems, right? I mean, this is the solution to socialism. So go check that out. Promo code Church and State. Also, if you want to get a hold of us, Church and State 1776 at proton.me. Now, with that, let's go ahead and bring on our guest. I'm really excited about this. Content Safe, as Gabe was talking about, this is the solution to the cancel culture. Look, Gabe and I were banned permanently off of YouTube, and it's because of the things that we say. It's because we are speaking truth, and you all know that as our audience.
And what's interesting is we sometimes self-censor because of it. Like there's a little bit of hesitation to use the word VAX. Instead, I say the jab, because those are the things that get you instantly knocked off of YouTube. One of them, we got strikes within days of setting up a second account. So yeah, there's certain forums. Definitely, we're a big fan of Rumble, big fan still of Facebook. I don't know why Facebook has never censored us. It's so it's not the typical answer for some people. In fact, I'm interested to hear from Daryl on probably his theory on why we haven't got hit yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with that, Daryl, thank you so much for joining us on Church and State. We appreciate your time, sir.
I'm psyched to join you guys.
Absolutely. So go ahead and, for our audience, describe exactly what Content Safe is and the journey of how you got there.
Cool. Well, in 2018, me and the other co-owner, Matt Raymer, we were looking at what was going on with all of the censorship. For example, Alex Jones and about 1,000 other content producers just got kicked off of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and pretty much delisted on Google. And Alex Jones even got kicked off of MailChimp, the email distribution company. There was so much censorship going on, and the 1,000 other creators were really all, some of them were just swept in, we're talking like women's knitting circles and things like that. They were really some of them were, obviously like the Free Thought Project and places that were actually trying to question reality and asking those hard questions. But we saw that it was the time to launch something. We came up with content is safe, and then it was like, okay, wait, content safe. He has the tech ability to just basically, we're a video distribution company. So Content Safe, what we do is we would take your video feed off of Facebook and put it up on, say, usually our clients take 5 places, but we've got about 13 different locations to put the video up. Obviously the standard big ones like Rumble and BitChute and Odyssey, and then other ones like Gab TV, Band.video. There's a lot of locations that we keep getting new locations to get it up. Because I guess you understand that if you have a podcast, it's easy. The MP3 audio can just go up. as, all the podcatchers, and it'll be on Podbean and Podomatic and, like on Stitcher and all the places that people get their podcasts, obviously, like iTunes, etc. It'll Spotify, it goes everywhere once you have an RSS feed for MP3. That doesn't work for video, like what we're doing right now, like you have to manually get that up on Rumble, and Rumble has specifics on how they take the video, like what the size is of your thumbnail, how many characters for your description and your title. Each company, BitChute and Odyssey, all of them have different rules, So if you guys have a media team, you understand, or you guys are the media team, you understand like, oh, upload failed to Rumble. So we just take care of that for all of our clients. We got some bigger clients like Sam Tripoli of the Tinfoil Hat Show, Tinfoil Hat Podcast, and that whole video live gets up. We work with James Corbett of the Corbett Report and a bunch of other folks, and we sure do want to work for you guys, because we like your message.
Awesome. I love hearing that. So what's the rundown? Because there are other podcasters, radio types that will listen to this show. So what's the price rundown for individuals that might be interested in Content Safe?
So we right now are working at about $1 an upload, which, for a standard show can kind of end up being around the, if it's to 5 different places, and if you have a show once a week, it can run you about $100 a month, depending, and that's approximately what we're doing, because like one show 5 times, and like multiple times a month, and that that can actually add up a bunch, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wanted to talk to you. I mean, obviously, with what you guys do over at Content Safe, you are at the front lines in this attack on our First Amendment rights. We have those rights to free speech, and the media has really become an enemy, and a lot of Americans are aware of that nowadays. I actually, and I know Gabe is with me on this as well. We applauded when Fox News took out Tucker Carlson, because we've been saying Fox News has been garbage for a very long time. The one saving grace was Tucker. But now all of a sudden it's like the blinders have fallen off of the American public, and they've realized Fox News is just propaganda. I mean, we just had Newt Gingrich, who was trying to bring up George Soros, and the Fox News host just cut him completely off. We don't talk about him on here. So it's really showcasing that there is a desperate need for shows like ours, and then for companies like yours that protect that freedom of speech.
Yeah, there is, and I think it's like squeezing water. You know what I mean, Caleb? Like, you can try to squeeze out the truth or the reality or evidence, facts, people who care about that, and it will, like, that's what censorship is. It's like using big muscular hands of the state, the mechanisms of the oligarchs, to squeeze water, and if the water's going to like basically evidence and actual factual information, the alt media such as yourselves is going to squeeze through the fingers, and it's going to find, of course, a market. And that market, of course, is these bigger places that have, stepped up to replace the censorship-ridden YouTube. And you asked before, like, hey, why are you guys still on Facebook? Well, the interesting thing is you have these big platforms that can be slow to suddenly generate an interest in censorship. But if you do say the wrong things, like obviously as you change your language to say jab instead of, the thing that rhymes with Maxine, I mean, like that's, that's the clever thing that's going on, And I was just listening to a show by Jack Spirko, the Survival Podcast, and he was explaining like how, challenging it is to wake people up is like basically it is impossible. And I think that right now, the way the message is going with alt media shows like Church and State and like many of our clients right now is that people just have a message for your audience that already understands you. They already understand the purpose of and the utility of being in alignment with evidence, of having faith and being connected to people who are moving forward with the proper energy, the proper energy field around them that they're moving. I think probably Gabe could go more into the details of how that one works. Basically, I don't I don't claim to know exactly everything, but I do see like that there's a lot of unity with people who already conclude the same way. And there's not really a lot of changing of hearts and minds that I'm seeing. Most people, if you were open-minded, you already are open-minded, and you already go down various rabbit holes and you investigate. And if you're closed-minded, you tend to already, maybe still be over there on MSNBC and watching Rachel Maddow, or the other side, like you mentioned,
Scary.
watching Fox. You're already there, you're captured into that market because you just need to trust and believe. And anything that's going to poke a hole in that, well, let's just say those people are not our clients. Our clients are people like you. We work for the alt media to spread that out. And there's many ways that it actually happens. But for sure, getting your show in front of more eyes and ears is our mission. That's what we do. Because there's I think that it is important to get it out there in front of more people who are open-minded to the message, and the way that happens is to go up on more channels to grow your audience. How many shows you got so far in Church and State?
We've been doing this since 2017, 5 days a week, so we've got a lot of content.
Oh boy. Yeah, so if you have a show that's 5 days a week, right, that's a lot of shows to navigate to different channels. So that's, but yeah, I'm hoping that we can talk after the show and see if we can make a deal. But to navigate your whole show, for example, over are you for example, are you on BitChute? Are you on Odyssey?
We are not on BitChute. Are we on?
Are you saying Odyssey as far as a streaming platform?
Well, I was meaning that the replays,
I do not believe so.
Yeah, we actually recently took kind of a hit on Church and State, and we lost our studio, we lost some technicians and things. So we actually today, oddly enough, it's kind of interesting.
With you and having technicians again.
Yeah, we're in our brand new studio space. We've got 2 technicians, but this is the very first day of it. So yeah, we're hoping to rebuild. We lost some of our ability to actually basically upload into multiple different sources. So that's actually what we're going to be doing today. So it's I find it fascinating that our first guest in our new studio is content safe.
That's really neat. But yeah, I mean, congrats on, first of all, recovering, because some shows just don't. I think it's really important that you keep your message going. And yeah, in general, I think that it's really important just to focus on getting the message out there. I think that growing your audience is the main component. That, and of course, knowing how do you get the message further is monetization. So do you guys have a merch store? What's your monetization strategy for Church and State?
Right now we have sponsors that we endorse their products, like for example, MyPillow, one of our hugest, ironically, sponsors over the years. We also are working with Survival Foods and
yeah, we got My Patriot Supply, Tuttle Twins, the Z Stack. So we've got some affiliates. We were before we lost everything. We did have the ability to download or just donate from our website. We're working on getting that back up again as well. So yeah, the monetization is something we're certainly interested on Church and State, and Content Safe can probably help us with that. And honestly, for the benefit of the audience, why don't you go ahead and describe kind of what that looks like?
Well, right now, we have to say we work individually with each alt media producer to see what are you already doing? Where do you publish? What's your schedule? And you guys are saying 5 days a week. Okay, so that's a heavy schedule. And what we'd work on would be to say, okay, first I guess we'll probably focus on the growing of the audience. If you're not on BitChute and some of the other channels, then to navigate your entire library over to one of those channels is what we can do. Now, obviously, that's a lot of bandwidth. That's a lot, but we get the job done in a few weeks, even when you have hundreds of shows. We still have the ability to do that, but that's a thing that's not covered in $100 a month kind of thing. That's a specific job where you're gaining credibility by having your whole show over there. You're not just starting over there on show number 2155, like, or have 20 shows over there, because that doesn't show real credibility for your audience. What you want is to have your whole, show over onto various channels, and then each week the next one goes over there. And there are platforms, in terms of like Restream and such, where they do the actual multiplying of the streaming places for people to see the live, like what this is going live right now over there. And I'm guessing by the 10 o'clock a.m., your guys in the West Coast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you understand. So basically, like everyone, who's on this time frame, that works perfectly for them. And, like for me, I was starting here at 7 a.m., like obviously I'd be probably like catching the replay, because I had to get ready special for this one. I don't do shows usually before 8 a.m., but here I am for this one,
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah, I've definitely been on a few interviews myself on like East Coast time where I'm getting up at 4 in the morning. It's a little rough. Need the coffee for sure. So we appreciate you getting up and being part of the show. Gabe, Daryl brought up something interesting that I wanted you to weigh in on. He was talking about more of that enlightenment, right? That there is kind of this separation right now. We're not really seeing too many people that are open-minded, that are transitioning over to our side, right? To the side that is seeking truth. What are your thoughts on that as a pastor?
I think right now, the galvanization between, we just typically call it left or right. It's much deeper than that. It's spiritual. And I think there's people who are on the left who are highly spiritual. It's just that there's some people whose eyes have been blinded, and we're praying right now, and we're believing God's going to reveal to them the truth. Because I was talking to somebody in studio recently. Actually, we were talking about the fact that they were raised not in a Christian home. Their parents were atheists, and we were having the conversation that right now, even if you study like GMOs, you study Klaus Schwab. You study the New World Order agenda. You study education. You study, vaccines.
Is that your new word? You're going to use that?
you study any of these things. It's all going to come back to this overarching theme that they hate Jesus Christ, not just God. They hate Jesus Christ, and you got to dig deep. But those, somebody from the left side could come to the conclusion, why do they keep attacking Jesus Christ? Why do they keep attacking humanity? Why do they keep attacking the nuclear family? Why do they keep attacking gender? Because they hate order in Christ. It's not just order. It's not just religious rules. They hate order. And what we're seeing is either you become, like Daryl, you're talking about, galvanized, set in stone, set in your ways, or your eyes are open. We're actually seeing more young people come to the conclusion that they're suppressing everything. And then you've got some who are realizing, hopefully, Tucker Carlson's got fired, many years ago. We saw some of our other heroes being fired, and then the buy-up of certain companies. And people are coming to a revelation, but it's a spiritual. The short answer is it's a spiritual issue. We have free will. God has given us free will. You're either becoming more set in your ways or either becoming opened.
I think it's a very solid breakdown. Daryl, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I do. I've talked about this with many other hosts of alt media, and I'm going to say something referring to the book Pendulum by Roy Williams and Drew Michael. It's a very important book to understand what's going on, especially from the lens of marketing. But why I'm mentioning their book is because every 80 years, this type of division happens among people across the world, going back at least 3,000 years as a pattern. And the pattern I'm referring to is where there's division, and the authors of that book, Pendulum, call it the we time period, where people divide up into their tribes. Like, we all believe, for example, that we looked at evidence of mortality and evidence of the actual medical situations going on, and we saw things that were like incongruous and going against what the mainstream media was actually saying, against what the biggest corporations in the world and the biggest governments were ever saying. And then there are people who are just believing, they have to believe, that they were never fooled by the New York Times or the news on their shows. And I'm talking about old people like my dad, unfortunately. And they will have their heels dug in, and they will never ever conclude to the opposite, because they have not that muscle of humility. that doesn't work like that for them. In fact, for them, it's all about that Upton Sinclair quote. You know, it's easier to, or like that, basically that's a Mark Twain quote, it's easier to fool a man than convince him he's been fooled. Or, you know, Upton Sinclair, that quote is more of the, you know, it's very difficult to explain something to someone if their understanding of that affects their salary. That's a, you know, changing their quote. And their mental and emotional salary, their connection to people that they love and are in close connection with, is all based on keeping these same firm beliefs, which is no different than any other religion. You know, religion is literally means to tie back, to tie up. That's where that root word comes from, religare in the Latin, as far as I know, that's where it's coming from. So you have this book basically saying that every 80 years, you know, you go back 80 years before this, it was 1943. And people were on that side of, look, you just have to put those Japanese into camps. Look, you just have to put, the Jewish people are spreading typhus, they need to be sent over to camps, to outside, to this ghetto. That's literally what people would believe. And they would dig their heels in and they would die before they would acknowledge error of these obviously erroneous conclusions. People like doing that right now for these rhymes with Maxine Waters. You know, they're the same way. And the same 80 years before that, where you have the actual American Civil War, you have brother against brother, people believing what is the right side to be on, you know, in terms of what was going on. You have the Napoleonic Wars over on the European continent at that time. You know, you have 80 years before that, where you have the actual Revolutionary War. And, you know, obviously those who are interested in supporting the king, and those who were seeing that this was a good opportunity for freeing the colonies from the king. And it keeps going. Another 80 years before that, now you have the actual Salem witch trials.
Right.
Actually people believing that those women are doing witchcraft and need to be drowned to test them for their purity, and you know, or set on fire, you know. And this is a cycle that happens every 80 years, as far as I can tell, and it goes back. Like,
Which I got to ask you, have you read The Fourth Turning?
Yeah, the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. And the same kind of like theory from that, basically. So this is a pattern, and I now am understanding, like, you know, when it comes to some of my close friends and some of like my friend I've been friends with since we were, you know, basically 8 years old, and it's the willingness to open mind to say, hey, would you question what injections are going into your child? Would you, like, there's just, like, the feet are dug in, and that's the way it is. And now I understand, like, that I have to honor the relationships I have with people based on where they are.
Right.
So, like, you guys need to, you know, honor the actual, like, who's in front of you, you know, like your audience, basically.
Yeah.
So we speak to our audience right now, and that's the marketing method right now. You know, like, if you guys, you understand, like, you know, obviously that there's a need for balancing your spiritual life, excellent, and you're speaking to those people. But for some people, like my friend, you know, from long ago, I mean, you know, he's going to be more like open to your idea if you're speaking through the lens of Buddhism. But you speak of the word Jesus, and now it all shuts down.
Right.
You know, like that kind of thing. And that's the way it is right now. People are in their camps, and we speak to who's in our camp. My opinion. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and I mean the breakdown is basically truth versus lies, you know, and for Gabe and I, you know, we are unashamedly Christian, and then that's why the show is called Church and State. But there are people, as you're pointing out, you know, your Buddhist friend, who's on a pursuit of truth. Now, we believe on this show that pursuit of truth will ultimately lead you to Jesus Christ.
Right.
But in this war that we currently find ourselves in, where there is a very evil side that is attempting to decimate the world's population, we need more fighters of truth. And so that's why we have been able to partner with, you know, Buddhists, libertarian atheists. It really doesn't matter as long as they believe in this universal truth in what our founding fathers called natural law and natural rights. We need to partner with those people in order to win this fight. I firmly believe that, and I think you're right there with me.
We have to find some way to narrow down through truth. Truth is like, it's iconic that's the word. The truth will set you free. It's going to set you free if you seek for it. And the Bible talks about wisdom too, seeking wisdom. And we have to unify more than ever. And right now, I think the identifier is, are you okay with suppression? And those who are okay with suppression, it makes me sad because I have some friends who are on the left who say, no, those voices should be silenced for our safety. And I'm completely the opposite of that. I've always been, and you and I have both agreed on this, the free will indicator. You need to allow neo-Nazis to spout their garbage, even though it is garbage, that has to be able to be out there into the world. You got to be able to hear even the nuts, the craziness, and the shutting down of like media is an indicator if you're not on the right side, if you're okay with Elon Musk being silenced. That shows me you're not concerned about truth. You're concerned about your truth, which it's interesting. A lot of people, you confront them on their thing.
That's my truth.
That's your truth.
Yeah. No, there are universal truths that you cannot debate. You cannot argue. These exist. They will always exist. So, hey, it's been a great conversation. We've got about a minute left, and I wanted to make sure, Daryl, that you were able to plug your website and any closing statements about your company.
Thank you. Contentsafe.co. Just go over and join us. We're ready to serve the alt media, and that involves you guys. And just want to say that there's really a lot of time to think about that. These people who want to shut things down, they want to increase censorship. When I talk to people like that, they're really in the minority. There's not a lot of people who really want to do that. The most people who really, really want to do that are in the oligarchy, the super minority. The 0.0001%. They want to shut things down. So, yeah, I wanted to hear too much about like what things that you got censored with, if ever. I missed that opportunity, unfortunately, talking about Pendulum. But I got to say, it was great to be on your show. You guys are, really, I appreciate the work that you're doing. And yeah, I'll be emailing you because I'd like to see how we could distribute your show.
Yeah, and we'll have you stay on after we end the broadcast here to talk just a little bit more because I am interested for sure.
Questions for you, Daryl.
Definitely. But we do appreciate your time on here. We appreciate your work as well. This is so important. Gabe and I obviously with doing our show, we're part of that. But Content Safe is another very important part of this because we got to have those platforms of free speech, and they're protecting it and securing it for all of us. So, Daryl, once again, we appreciate your time. Church and State is sponsored in part by the Constitution Party and Patriot Church, empowering you to put faith into action. With that, Church and State is out.
God bless.